All right, welcome to this lesson. So in this lesson, we're going to get our hands dirty. Yeah, we're going to start creating things, moving things around, vertices, faces, edges, and what I'll get to it. All right, a few things to consider when when we're modeling anything in Blender. All right, is that before you can't actually edit this in this mode. There are different modes in Blender which I talked about. So if you come over here, just under this panel, this one here, and click it, you would see you have object mode, you have edit mode, you have sculpt mode, you have vertex mode, you have weight mode, and you have texture paint mode. You have weight paints, vertex paints, sculpt mode. So there are different modes. So right now we are on the object mode, right? This is where you see the objects like the way it is, right? Nothing changes and all of that. So when you click here and scroll down to the edit mode, you can see it changes to the edit mode. Even the tools panel also changes too, right? So you can have what to play with. All right. Okay, so the next is the sculpt mode, which we already talked about in previous classes, in the previous lesson, where you can also access it with this button. You can also change it from the file in case you want to start sculpt mode immediately. So there's the vertex paint mode to paint in vertex. I've not really used vertex paint since I started using Blender, but there's the weight paint. So this will come in handy when we're rigging our character and we want to add some muscles to the character and we want to use weight paints or to clean up our rigs, so we use weight paints. There's also the texture paint. This is where we actually paint in actual textures to the characters, more like painting maybe a tattoo, a porous, wrinkles. You can paint it into the character. So we'll be in the most part of this modeling class, we'll be using the edit mode. All right, so we're in edit mode now. You can also, the shortcut for edit mode is the tab key. So if you press your tab key on your keyboard, you can switch between object and edit mode effortlessly. All right, you can see that it's in object mode, edit mode, object mode, edit mode, object mode, edit mode. Okay, that's it. All right, edit mode. All right, few things to consider when we're in edit mode. All right, so there are different parts of an object when you're editing. What do I mean? So you have the vertices, you have the edges, and you have the faces. In your own language, you can call it maybe the points, the corners of the objects, the edges of the objects, or the faces. But in Blender, we call it the vertices. Excuse me. In Blender, we call it vertices, edges, and faces. So every object in Blender is a mesh, right? As long if it's a circle, even if it's a sphere, a cube, we call it a mesh. So this mesh has vertices, it has edges, and it has faces. So if you come up here, just close to the edit mode, you would find it here. So right now the vertex mode is active. Right, if you click on the edge mode, you see that the edge mode is active. Right, you can actually edit with the edge mode active. Then in the face mode, you can actually edit with the face mode active. So let's get our hands dirty. So if I select, starting with the vertex mode, so I want to reform this mesh, for example. Remember our last class we talked about how to move objects right around. So with the G key, you can actually move this around. So you see I'm moving the vertex, one vertex, just moving it. Just click my G key and move it. All right, see the way I'm moving it, right? So you see I'm editing this particular mesh to form, I don't know what I'm doing anyways. So you can actually see, I'm sorry about my dog anyways. I don't know why he's in the mood right now. I'm really sorry if you're hearing my dog on the background. All right, so this is the vertex mode, you can see. So if we switch to the edge select mode, you can see we can actually edit with the edges, right? You see you can edit with the edges. You see that you can select only the edges that you can edit, right? So there's the face selection, so you can select the faces, move it around, you can rotate, actually you can scale. All right, don't forget our S for scale, R for rotation, G for for grabbing, so GRS, right, for grabbing. So you can see what it looks like when you're in the edit mode. But when you're in the object mode, you can't actually edit anything. You can pretty much just move the objects, and we click your G to grab, your S, your R to rotate, your S to scale. So you can actually see what it looks like when you're in object mode. You can't actually edit it on object mode, nothing. So you just, object mode actually shows you what your results, at the end of the day, though you can still see your results in edit mode anyways. All right, so if I tap back into edit mode, then you can actually edit your mesh. So this is called a mesh. Okay, so that's the basic thing you need to know about modeling. So that's it about modeling. So there's also, so we're going to get into the nitty-gritty when we start modeling some things in Blender. So let's delete this. You delete this by pressing your X button, or you can also use your delete key. It will ask you if you want to delete this object. You can just say yes. All right, so let's explore other meshes in Blender. So if you hold down Shift and press A, it will give you access to this menu, right, where you can add. So the same option is up here, so you can add mesh, you can add curve, you can add surface, you can add metable, you can add text, you can add volume, you can add grease pencil, amateurs, lattice, empties, images, you can add background images, image explain, reference images. There is lighting, you can add your lights, you can add your light prop, you can add cameras, you can add speakers. Oh, speakers, cool. I know we had that now. I've not used it, but it's cool. You can add force field, so you can add wind, vortex, magnetic field. All these are really amazing tools you can add to your scene. Don't worry about this one. The collection instance is also there, so don't worry about this one. It's an add-on I installed on my own version. All right, so you can just hold down Shift and press A to access this. So this is a mesh, so it gives you access to other mesh. Remember our cube, right? So you can add a plane. So this is a plane. You can actually edit this plane. Remember our vertex, you can move, press G to grab, and all of that. So you also hold down Shift and press A again to give you another option, so you can add your cube. So let's scale this cube down just a bit. So I just want us to explore our meshes. I mean, depending on what you want to create, right? Sometimes you want to start with a cube, right? So you can start with a cube and build a car. You can start with a cube and build a character, anything, right? So let's hold down Shift again, press A. You can add a circle, right? So that's a circle. If you click and drag, grab it on the XZ axis, you can see that there is a circle in the scene. If I go to edit mode, you see it you can find the vertex. And where I'm going to teach you, you're going to see how you can actually extrude and form maybe a VLC cone. I'm trying to remember the name of that tool we find on the road, right? You can see that we just created this amazing cone right here. So don't worry about it. We are going to go into the nitty-gritty of this tool. Okay, all right, we just created this amazing cone shape object. All right, so if you want to even go further to clean it up, so you can see that. So we're going to talk about extrusion in a very short time. So I'm just giving you an idea of what you can actually, the possibilities of what you can actually do when you add meshes. You have a mind of your own. You can actually think and say, yo, I want to create this particular thing. So what mesh can I start with? That's what we are doing right now. So we're actually exploring. So there is this sphere. So scale this down a bit, maybe move it to along the y-axis. So you can use this for a lot of things. So there's the sphere. You can use it to create eyeballs, you can create a football, whatever it is. I can use it to create a house. Whatever you want to do with this sphere, however you want to start with, you can use it, right? So let's explore. So we have the UV sphere. For some reason I haven't used the UV spheres before. Most primitive or meshes I've ever used, sorry I use the word primitive, so if you're, I'm also a Maya user, so in Maya we call it primitive, we call these primitive as against meshes in Blender. So I also use Maya, so in Maya we call it primitive, so forgive the jargon, I just wanted to clear that out. So there's a UV sphere. For some reason I've not used the UV spheres before, right? But I think this I think we're going to test it out. I'm going to test it out, you guys. All right, so again, please forgive my dog. There's an ecosphere. All right, there's an ecosphere. So it depends on how you choose to, you know, work within Blender. So we are just exploring all the meshes. So we have the plane, the sphere, the cube, which is the default cube that you, when you launch Blender, you see, that's the first thing you see. There's the circle, there's the ecosphere, there's the UV sphere. All right, so ecosphere comes with a little lesser vertices. So the idea is that, you know, like this one, you can see there are lots of vertices. So depending on the kind of, you know, project you're working on, if you do not want maybe your Blender file to be too heavy, or if there's no, you know, huge consequences, like if adding this is inconsequential but you just want to add it anyway as a prop, so you can just add the one with less or dense vertices. Or so you can see this is a really low poly, very low quality, you know, model. But if you smooth this out, you can see that this is a high quality. You see, they are two different things, but this has higher. If we come here and click on statistics, you can see when you select this one, you have 1050 vertices. If you select this one, you pretty much have the same thing, right? Oh, cool. For some reason it's not showing the exact vertices. It usually shows up somewhere. Okay, 42 vertices. So if you select this one and select everything, so you press A to select toggle, to select all, box select. So we'll go into that. All right, so if you press A, it will select everything. All right, so you can see this has 482 vertices, right, as against this that has only 42. So depending on what you want to create. So finally, I rarely use the ecosphere, except when I'm, you know, creating like a particle system. What I mean by particle system, when I want to create like a rain effect, maybe it's raining and you need an object to serve as a catalyst for that. So subsequently you'd learn that. I'm going to talk about it. You have the cylinder. All right, so depending on what you want to create, so you have different meshes to play with. So there's a cylinder, there's a cone, there's a torus, right? So there's the monkey head. So I've not used this before, right, but it's a really cute, you know, model, right? So you can see it, you can play with it. So I need to to add this up. The reason why I'm adding this up is so you get used to the Shift A, right? So it can come in very handy. There's the island, so this can come in handy when you want to create like mountains, you know, so you can serve as a base mesh, like for you to, you know, to move things around. So sorry, I didn't show you something. There's something I really want to show you there. So let's select all of this and move it on this y-axis. Let's delete this first. So let's add the island again, so you see something. So when you add the island at first, without moving it or scaling anything, without moving it, so you can see it has some settings here where you can, you know, actually set it, or maybe, you know, tweak to have your desired results, right? You could come, if you start from here, maybe you want to scale it, you could see it's actually giving you a subdivision. So subdivision means that it's actually adding more vertices to it. I'm not going to go to edit mode, if not we're going to lose this menu. So if you want to scale, subdivide and scale it on the, the sorry, that's not it. So you want to actually subdivide it on the y-axis, so you can actually do the same thing. So you want to offset it to give you different variation of, you know, a mountain, right? So this is really cute. It comes in really handy if you're maybe a cinematographer or a producer who want to, you know, create those kind of lovely effects, so you can actually get your desired results. You know, position your camera at a particular angle and maybe film and have this sunrise effect, right? So you can see what it looks like. So these are settings you can actually play with. So there's a noise, so you can play with this, right? And you can actually animate this, so it has that, it gives you that that effect. So it's amazing. It's an amazing tool. So I just needed to play with it, you know. And at the same time, we have a Discord, right? So as you're playing with it, you can actually, you know, post your work in progress, so we can actually see that you are following along. All right, so this is what the landscape looks like, so you can actually play with it in your spare time. So moving on, so that's it. So if you can go ahead and play with all this. I've not really you know, played with this, you know, long time. So this is it. So just play with it and, you know, get your result done. So moving on, if we click outside, you can't, that menu is gone. So remember when we're subdividing it, we're adding lots of meshes in it. So you can see here we have 12,000, which is, it's really dense, right? Depending on the kind of laptop you're using, you know, it might be really slow. I'm using an RTX and a Ryzen graphics card, so it's pretty fast anyways. So that's it. So that, let's see if we can add, remember this is, I just went to wireframe mode, so you can press X to toggle between the views. There's the wireframe view, the solid view. You can also find the same thing here, wireframe, solid, material, and rendering. All right, so let's see what you can add again. Shift A, I need to be used to it because we're going to be using it a lot. So the rest of it here, it's pretty cool. You can add, this is a gear, you can add it, right? I've not used it before, so you can find it has its own menu, right? So you can actually, you know, play with it. I need to play with this, you know, and let's see, take your phone, you know, take a picture, or you can quickly take a screenshot. Where's it going to take a screenshot? Hey, you can take a screenshot, right? That's why you can take a screenshot. Hold on. Yes, you can actually take a screenshot of your scene. Yo. Yeah, it's a place, it's where you can actually save. Okay, yeah, here it is. So there is, it's supposed to be here in Blender in rendering. Oh, I think we took it out. It's usually here anyways. Toggle window. Yeah, Windows. So under Windows, you'll find save screenshot. So you just click that, just save a screenshot, post it. That's it. Screenshot of your scene, the way it looks like. So Windows, screenshot. Yeah, that's it. Cool. Right, so there are lots of meshes you can actually play with, right? So there is the curve, where you can add curve, you know, to your scene. Again, please, apologies for my dog. So there is a capsule, meatball, right? So if you want to, let's say you want to create, you say you want to create a minion, for example. So I haven't really explored this before. So you can actually use this as your starter to create, you know, your minion. So that's it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So I'll select, hold, press and click and drag to select everything, or you can hold down, press B on your keyboard. It will activate your selection tool and you select everything. If for any reason it's not selecting, come here, make sure that this select box is active. If this is active, it won't you won't select, it means that the 3D cursor is what's active, or your move button or your move tool is active. So make sure that the selection tool is active. So you select everything, press X and delete. Center, you need, for you to add a mesh, you have to center your 3D cursor in the middle of the scene. So for you to do that is to hold down Shift and press C, and it has centered your 3D cursor to the view, or to your 3D scene. Shift and press C, hold down Shift and press C. You know, you need to learn, master that, play with it. You know, click outside. It's also, I mean, by mistake you could just mistakenly, you know, click outside and your 3D cursor is snapped to that particular point, right? So for you to snap it back to its original point, just hold down Shift and press C, and that's it. Don't forget to rotate around the viewport. It's your middle mouse button. All right, so let's get our hands dirty. So before you start, you know, creating anything in Blender, you know, I'll give you professional advice. Even the professionals use this. Those who work in Disney, Pixar, Illumination, Netflix, always use a reference. Never work from your brain. Never try to create anything from your mind. I know everybody has an amazing mind, amazing ideas, but there's nothing you want to create that has not been done before, or hasn't, or someone else has not had that idea before. Some people have created something close to it, so you'd want to find references to work with. So I've been checking for references. Let me bring in my windows here. I'll be checking for references. All right, so best place to check is Pinterest. So I've been checking for the simplest thing we can do that's not so complex, but gives us that, you know, gives us that beauty and gives us an understanding of, you know, how to model anything in Blender. All right, so before, and this particular class is important because you can't actually learn how to create characters like this if you do not understand the principles, or not really principles, or the basic knowledge of how to model the simplest of things. All right, so this is really cute. I mean, I think I should give you guys this as an assignment so you can create this. All right, so this is really cute. You know, it's simple. I mean, you're in your mind, you already know the meshes you can use to achieve this. So you can use a cylinder to achieve the pen. You can use a cube to achieve these, right? And in less than 5 minutes, you're done. 5 to 10 minutes, you're done. All right. So I would leave this as an assignment. So let's find something else that we can create. This is also cute to check for references that you can, you know, always look for references. You see, this is a very cute reference to use. You already have an idea of how, you know, this you can use your sphere to achieve this. So you see the reason why I wanted us to explore all the meshes we had, you know, before we go into the business of the day. All right, so I liked this one, all right, because it had a few things we can learn. It had bevel, it had some nice, because we're going to recreate this scene, right, with the lighting, with the materials, the textures, all of that. I think this is also good to start with, right? This is also okay. All right, I believe you must have seen this this guy on YouTube when you want to learn the donut guy. I mean, you should watch his videos. It's really good. So there are lots of reference to play with, to explore. So always search for reference. You don't try to create on your own. Even if you want to create an image, a 3D version of yourself, you need pictures, right? You need to take a picture of yourself. I don't think you have in your mind what you look like except when you look in the mirror, right? So you need to take a picture of yourself and, you know, recreate the model. So there are lots of references to play with. There's, if you want to create a house, if you want to create a building, architecturing, look for references. You know, always look for references. Something that the importance of reference is not to actually steal the person's idea, but to give you an idea of what you're getting yourself into. One, two, to actually to actually give you that baseline, to create. So you see, like something like this. So somebody who is coming from a UI UX perspective, you can actually adopt this particular idea and recreate it in your own way. Right. So Pinterest is always my favorite social media platform when it comes to designs. Next to Behance and Dribble, they have amazing mood boards. So this can serve as a mood board for you. So always look for references. So the lecturer, when it comes to the character creation part, you would have a smooth ride when he starts taking you on the character design, sculpting, because it's going to be intense. So you have to get your basics right. So this is the basics we are going into. Right, so this is beautiful. I mean, we could create this, but it's a bit complex, and I don't want you to stress yourself too much. I mean, it's simple to achieve. I mean, you have your box. I mean, you can actually see how it will take shape in your mind, though it's simpler in your mind anyways. Until you start working. All right, so so let's jump right in and get our hands dirty with this. So this will be provided to you, so you can just come here and find it anyways. So just click download, and I already have it downloaded to my desktop, right? So I already have it downloaded, so all we have to do is just import this. So the reason why I'm asking us to do reference, so you actually learn firsthand how to import images into your scene as reference. Or why is this not downloading anyway? How you can actually import images into your scene to work with. Okay, so let's try again. For some reason it's not. Oh, this is really good. So the goal of this course is that at the end of the course, you're going to learn how to design stuff on your own, how to animate. So it gives you the basic principle of animation, so that you can actually recreate your own scene, your own animation. It's gonna be fun. So I need you to buckle up. I need you to concentrate, because you need it. Right, grab your coffee or whatever, and let's jump right in. All right, so let's add an image. So there are different ways, workflows I use. So I'll either come to Shift A, right, and come to images, references, background, or image as planes, right? Or I have a separate window for it. Usually I have a separate window for it, but let's go through this one so you can actually see what it looks like. Once you click reference, it takes you to your reference. So I'll find my reference. So this is it, radio. So you have it here as a reference. So for some reason it's jagged, the rotation is messed up. So what we would have to do is clear the rotation. So you do that by holding down Alt or Option in your Mac, then R to clear the rotation. So if it was grab, you moved, you can actually do the same thing with move tool and the S to scale to clear the scale. Right, so right now we have to switch to orthographic view. Remember our orthographic view, it's here, orthographic perspective. We are currently in the perspective view. So orthographic view to switch, or 5 on your keyboard to switch between orthographic and perspective. So we want to see it on the orthographic view, so that when we see it, it comes in straight. So we will need to rotate this image to face us. So right now it's slipping. If you check it from the top view, you can see that it's lying on the top view. So switch to the front view with 1 as your numbers numpad in your keyboard. So you click R, rotate it around the x-axis 90 degrees. Boom. So press R, rotate it along the x-axis in 90 degrees. So you can see that we have our image as plane. So we just added our image to the scene, so where you can actually start creating. So like I said before, I always like to have a separate window for it where I can actually look at what I'm doing and, you know, not have it get in the way. Though you can actually move this back on the y axis and you keep creating, but I always like to have it in a separate window. So I'll just press X to delete that. Come here, switch to UV or image editor. Let's use image editor. Press open. Go to where you downloaded your file. Mine is in the downloads. Alright, so downloads, let's find our image. Where is our image? Okay, so you have our image right here. So it gives me that space. It's blurry. I'll have to download the full version, because if you notice I saved the image into my system. Alright, so we are now free to model here in Blender in our scene. Alright, so let's start. Well, so the first thing I would want to create is this one, so this can actually be duplicated to the other side. So let's add in our cube. So if you guessed right, it's a cube. We use our cube to start. All right, so the next thing I'll always love to do is a habit is to move my cube to center on top on the 3D floor. All right, because if we add a plane right now, I need to be on the floor. So we scale this, press S to scale. I need the cube to be seated just like it's going to be seated on the table. So I like it like that. So in the meantime, I'm going to hide this plane by pressing H to hide. If you want to unhide it, hold down Alt and press H, it will unhide. So we'll hide this. So what I always love to do is just center the mesh on the floor. So let's tap to edit mode. Edit mode. This is pretty simple to create. No hard feelings. It's really simple. So you can notice that it's a slim, slim radio, right? It's slim, and this is much, has more depth than this one has. So we would want to scale it with everything selected. Don't forget, with everything selected, there are different ways you can do this. You can actually choose to select, hold down Shift and select every other thing, so you can see it. All right, so if you want to select together, like randomly, you can hold down Shift to select at random or simultaneously any other vertices. Same thing applies to the edge. Hold down Shift while you select the edge. Same thing applies to the face. Hold down Shift and you select faces. All right, so that's it. So there are different ways you can do this, but I always want to select everything by pressing A on my numpad to toggle. All right, then scaling it on the x-axis, at least to give it that size, and we'll also scale along the y-axis. I think that's okay. All right, so while this is still selected, everything is still selected, we want to get the bevel. Nothing in this life is actually sharp in edges, so there's never a sharp edges. If you notice, if you want to test it, check your table, check whatever it is you think is sharp. Your laptop has a beveled edge, a curved edge, so you'd want to have, so this is a stylized character or a stylized model. The bevel is really obvious, so we'd want to add a bevel to it. So you're going to learn how to add bevels to your object. Always add a bevel to any sharp objects. There is no flat surface. It's a principle. As a good designer, you always want to add bevel. It gives that beauty. You can see it right here. Okay, so how do you add bevel? You hold down Control and press B, and drag. You can see it adds that bevel. Just move your mouse, you're not clicking anything. So hold down Control B and move your mouse a bit. All right, then if you press to accept that selection, or while that is selected, you press escape. Oh, this doesn't work. While that is selected, you just press your right mouse button depending on which one you used initially. All right, mine is not really that beveled. I would want to get exact same thing here, something close. So that's okay. So if you once you select it, you'll find that a menu pops up here. So there are different options you can choose from. So we want to leave this as default, and let's play with the offsets. See, you can actually play with the offset in case you were not satisfied with your own bevel when you did it at first. So now the segments, let's play with it. So it's best to play with it. So the segment, you can see it gives you the amount of vertices you'd want to use with that part. You can actually still come and bevel it again to increase the width to have that stylized look. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it. So the shape, wow, this is cute. I haven't used this before. I usually just stick with the bevel. So I think the shape still, it's to still give you that, though it's beveled, but still give you that that sharp edge. All right, so I think that's it. So the rest, just leave it at default and go back to object mode by pressing tab on your number pad. So you can see that when we came here, we find that the edges is rough, right? It's really rough and we need to smoothen it out. So how do you smooth your object? You just press W and it comes up smooth, and boom, it's smooth. Ta-da! Right? And you want to smooth the normals too. For some reason, that's how it works. So you come to your vertex button here and click on normals, and select auto smooth, so it smooths the normals too. You might not really see much changes, but don't worry, you will see them. All right, so we have our first radio. Ta-da! Right? So another thing you would want to add is a subsurface modifier. All right, so because we've beveled it, we will not really see the effect of the subsurface modifier, but this really adds that more smoothness to your model. So these are modifiers. So there are different modifiers we would use. There's the array modifier, there's the mirror modifier. We would use the mirror modifiers to get the next one, so it mirrors an object to the other side. So it will come in handy when you are, or most of these modifiers will come in handy when you're creating your character, because when you're creating your characters, you would want to create the exact same thing you're creating on one side on the other side. So you use your mirror modifier, and if you want to create one side then you create the other side, you might not get it right. No matter how perfect you are, you may not get it right. So you usually want to use your mirror modifier, which is very, very handy. All right, so the next one we are going to create is this one. So you already guessed the tool we are using. We're going to use our circle. So I would want to add it here. So what do? Remember, the middle mouse, the 3D cursor, you can add mesh. The mesh is always added to where the 3D cursor is at. So you would click here, then let's add a circle. All right, so one will say, why didn't you add a torus? I mean, we could do that. I mean, it all depends on how you want to work, but usually I always want to start with a circle. But let's go ahead, let's add a torus. So you could find that there are some settings here you could play with. You can play with the segments, you can play with the, right? So depending on how you want to to explore this thing, it's really amazing. It's really, really amazing. So depends on how you want to do it. So just play with it. So you'd want to not use too much vertices. So you play with it just to give you that, give you that desired result. So it depends on how you will choose to work. excuse me, so sorry about that. All right, so if we're okay with the results, so let's jump straight and rotate this. Don't forget, make sure you're okay with the result before you move, because once you move these objects around, you would lose this menu. All right, so let's rotate this on 90 degrees. You know, so what I did there, I press X, I press R to rotate it in 90 degrees. All right, so let's move this to position. Okay, so this is it. So you can see the reason why I made it low poly, so I could actually show you how subdivision actually affects your model. So if you add subdivision, you can see it now, it gives you that smooth, you know, edge or model. So I think we want to increase this. Let's reduce it. Let's pull this out a bit. All right, if you notice, we have it closed in here. This is the reason I always want to use a circle, but hey, it's the first time for everything. So we want to use our edge selection. So how do you select? Because if you want to select everything, you would have to hold down shift and select everything, and it can be very tedious. You can miss a particular edge or a vertices, so you can hold down shift to select everything. So the way you can select along a particular path is hold down Alt and select that path. It will select all the vertices around that path, right? So we want to select this one here, inside here, or this one here. Okay, now it's time to learn extrusion. All right, I don't know how best to explain extrusion to you unless we try it out. Okay, so let's learn extrusion. So how do we extrude these? Right, so you do that by pressing E, right, and escape, or you press your left mouse button to clear it out. Right, then you press S to scale. While it's still selected, you can press S to scale this to this point. Okay, then press E again, then cancel. You can actually move it to have this bulge, you know, this bulge here, so you can actually press move to move it along the y-axis, right? Then scale it, press E again, scale. You can actually move it along the y-axis again, just to have that bulge that we see there. You can actually press E again, move it, G to move along the y-axis, then scale, right, till you have that bulge effect, right? Mine is even more bulging. So you want to move it back. So you see, you notice I'm looking at it from different angles. I can look at it from a side view. So you notice mine is actually too bulgy, which, I mean, I don't really mind, right? It's not like I want to copy entirely everything. Okay, so that's it, right? So you see, it's not going to be an exact same thing. So we use a torus, so the torus already gave us that everything curvy, but if we had used a circle, it would have been different. So this is extrusion in a nutshell. So you notice there's a hole inside in the middle here, so you want to close that hole. So there's different ways you can close it. So you can close it by pressing F to close faces, right? But the best way to always close it is to just merge. Not really the best way anyways. So you can actually merge it at the center, such that all these lines now comes and, you know, merges at the center. So how do you merge at the center? So you press M on your keyboard. So there are different ways. It will merge to the center, to 3D cursor. It will merge to where the 3D cursor is. To collapse, it will merge and collapse every other vertices. So you have just one vertices, but what we are looking for is merge to the center. So you can see that now that it's actually merged to the center. All right, so the next thing now is you have to, how you can add these loop tools, this loop. Let's add some loop to it. So this is the loop, right? So let's say we want to add it here. You can see it's still, because our subdivision is active. So if we come here and where you find this television icon and click it, so you see it's deactivated. So you're not really seeing it. It's back to, if you tap to object mode, you can see it's back to our rough edge, our sharp edges. But if you click it again, you have it back here. But you need to, we need to clean this up. So to add an edge loop, just like we have here, is to hold down Control and press R, and to add, it will show you the sign where you can add an edge loop, right? So you can add an edge loop there, here, or here. So this is where we want to add an edge loop. So when we add, while it's still selected, you can actually move it to a position you want it to be added. So let's crease this just to have that effect. You can actually add another one. All right, and move it to the other edges. So remember, what did I do to add an edge loop? Tap to edit mode, Control R. So it shows you, gives you that sign where you want to add, you know, the edge loop. So this is where I want to add it. I'll just click to select once, then move my mouse to where I want to crease it. So I crease it here. Let's add another one. Control R, select once, and once I'm satisfied, I select again. So you see we now have that speaker. Ta-da! That's amazing. Okay, so if you notice, there's also a sharp, you know, sharp crease here, but I believe the reason, let's see if we can play with it. I don't think it's possible, and because everything is all curved up, unless we click and move this in a bit and scale it here, all right, to have that effect. So what I'm doing, I'm just moving my loop. I selected a particular loop. Let's Control Z to undo. So what I did was I found that, you see this particular edge here, it's a bit sharp, right? So how do we achieve that? So we select a particular loop. So we select a particular loop, either this one or this one inside. Let's select this one. All right, so we press G and move it on the y-axis a bit inside, and we scale it. Press S to scale, so we can have that, you know. You can also select this one on top and do the same thing, you know, just to have that sharp, a bit sharp edge. All right, so oops, so you see why you want to see it, look at it from different angles, so you don't mistakenly move objects around like what I just did here. Big mistake. So I'm looking at it from different angles. So let's crease it just like we added edge loop. So let's add a loop, Control R, right, and another one here. See, I just creased this, so we now have that clean effect. All right, so if we go back, we can actually crease here again, Control R. So it has that, you see that sharp edge around it, and you can actually move it. The idea is just to get understand how it works at the end of the day. So remember, to select everything is all the loop around is hold down Alt to select. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I think I even like mine. All right, so don't forget, we're going to add, you know, materials to it, colors to it. So at the end of the day, you could have this. So you can press W to smoothen it out. So there you go. You have your first speaker. All right, So I need to play with it. If you do not understand, please ask questions, but I don't think it's difficult. Adding edge loops, add your edge loops, give you that, that sharp edge right there. So I think we've learned two things today. We've learned two things in this lesson. Most importantly, extrusion. You understand? So let's say we want to get creative and select around faces. So you can click select faces, make sure faces is active, hold that Alt, and actually select. See, you can select this, right? You can actually extrude this forward by pressing E to extrude. You can see it already snaps to that particular axis. All right, so if we change, you can see that it's still beautiful. You can still achieve that same result. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. So you've learned how to extrude, how to add edge loops. These are very important because in your next, it will be these basics are really important because in our character creation phase, we are going to need them. All right, because we won't be going over this again. So the next thing, let's duplicate this. So how do you duplicate? Is hold down Shift and press D to duplicate. So if you want to, while it's still selected, you want to snap it on an axis. So Z, press your Z key to snap it on an axis, bring it down, then press S to scale, and there you have it. I believe some fast guys have already done theirs, so you can see it from different angles: the side view, the front view, the top view, right? So this is cute. All right, so yes, we've created our first speaker. Ta-da! Okay, so the next thing, let's separate this white part so we have it separated. I would like to change the color of this view. So let's, while you're in solid view, come to this drop down button here. You can see some different lighting, for your viewports. So there's a flat one, the matte cap. So let's stick to studio. Then for color, there's a material, there's the objects, there's the attributes, the single, there's the random. So I like the random anyway. So if there was a texture, you'd see it in the textured color. So let's select random, so we actually see it separated. So you can see that we have 3 objects already. So how do we separate this white part? So let's have the white part separated. So what do? We tap back into vertex mode or edit mode. Yeah, so while this is selected, you click outside to clear the selection. So we'd want to remember how we selected a loop around an object. So make sure edge is turned on because it's the edge we want to select, right? Or let's use faces. Let's look at it from the side view. Switch to wireframe. So while you're in wireframe, box select here, and you now have, make sure you're always in wireframe, because if you're in object, if you're in solid view and you try to box select, right, this, you'll notice that this side you've not selected this side and you'll just be deceived. All right, so you want to make sure you're in wireframe, right? Press your Z key to toggle around your different shade view. So there's the solid view shade, solid shade, there's the rendered shade, there's the material shade, and there's also the wireframe. So you box select that part, so you have everything selected. So now, having done that, so how do you separate this from this? You do that by just pressing P on your keyboard. So you have separate by material, separate by loosed part, separate by selection. So we just selected it. So if it's material, it means that if there are materials on this thing, like you can find here, so it to separate by the material on this thing. So anywhere you have different materials, so if it's black, it stays the same. If it's white, it separates white from this one. So that's what it means. So if you separate by loose part, it means that if, for example, this was joined together, this speaker part was joined together, so to separate by the parts that are loosed. All right, so since we used by selection, we'll just separate by selection. So it means that that first one is separated. So you can see we have a different object from that one. All right, so we now have a different object. So the reason why I'm doing this, so that when we want to add material, so it will be easy for us to add the material. Great. Now let's move on. So which is next? We're just going to create these these two. So this is also easy to just select everything, confirm everything is selected. All right, Shift D, remember, to duplicate, and press X to snap it on a particular axis, so you can see it there. So we now have two speakers right now. Yay! Great. I always like to keep things organized. So like looking at it from the top view, press 7 to look at it from the top view and move it on the x-axis. Let it just be centralized. All right, great. So remember how to snap your 3D cursor to this. So let's snap it back now. Shift C to snap your 3D cursor to this same. All right, so actually we can actually use this one to recreate this one, right? Let's see how we can achieve that. So let's select these two. All right, Shift D to duplicate. Oops. Shift D to duplicate. All right, so you'd want to go to edit mode, select everything. So while the two is still separated, yeah, you can actually go to edit mode while both of them are separated. All right, select everything, and let's see if we can scale this down. All right, so to get that smallish look, I think we are good. All right, so the next part, let's start back. So this is what the one we're going to edit. All right, so let's create this screen right here. So we are going to model everything. Actually, I'm going to model everything. So first, let's start back. Let's first create the screen. So how do you create this screen right here? So there are two ways. The best way to do it, let's just add a cube. Click on where you want to add the cube. Add a cube. Yeah, you can add a cube in vertex mode. Yes. Hold on. Let's delete this first. Let's add a cube from the object mode, because right now, while this is selected, you still have your subdivision active. So if you add anything while you're in that particular object, it would carry the same modifier. So let's add it outside the object. So let's add a cube. This is really basic, just follow along. So it's S to scale it. Let's look at it from the front view. Remember, you're in orthographic, switch to orthographic. If you're in perspective, you won't really get it right like that. So let's switch to orthographic view, move this down a bit. So I'm looking at this guy right here. Okay, right, so let's scale it along the x-axis. So if you click and drag your middle mouse button, you can see that if you look at it from the right, you can see it's too thick. So let's scale it along the y-axis. Remember when I told you that nothing is actually sharp in real world? You can see it right here. Nothing is really sharp. But first, before we do that, let's bevel. Let's extrude. Let's extrude. So we have this not so sharp part. Let's extrude this part. We do that by pressing E. Remember, it snaps, so you clear it by pressing your left mouse button. So let's scale this in, so we have that that feel, the inner screen, that black part. And we can now select this. Make sure your edge is select active. Select this one, select this one, select this one, select this edge. So confirm that everything is selected, then Ctrl B to bevel that edge. Oh, that's not a good result. That's not a good result. It's not so good a result though. So I think what I should have done is bevel first. So let's reduce the segments a bit. So we just want something very subtle. Okay. All right. Reduce the segment. So it's just to get a desired result. So you can find that it has beveled, you know. So W to smooth, add your smooth. Okay. I'm still not satisfied with this. I don't like the way it beveled though. I do not like the way it beveled, so I'll delete it and add another cube. I do not like the way it beveled. Let's add a plane. Let's see. From VS. Okay. Go to edit mode. Let's extrude this forward. Okay. All right, edge selects everything. For some reason, I don't know why it's doing that, but let's continue. I think I like this one better. All right, this is better. Good. I like it. This is better. All right, so just need it very subtle. So good. So edge plane works. So you can actually still extrude your planes. So let's move this inside. Tap to edit mode. Make your face. Make sure your face is selected. All right, so let's extrude this. Let's extrude this. You can actually scale it along the x-axis just to have a precise, you know, a precise flow. Okay, so I'm just scaling along different axes, so just to get that desired result. All right, so let's extrude this out a bit. Okay, so we have our screen. Ta-da! So I think we should separate it from the one behind. So you can actually invert selection. So I want to separate it, so you notice that only the front is selected. So I want to separate. I want to also add this other part. So how do I do that? You hold down Control and press your plus key. It adds that selection to you. So you can actually press plus to add a selection. So this basics is really important. The reason why I chose this particular model is so that you'd understand those basic principles of how to model much faster. So having selected that, press P, remember, separate. So you have this screen here and this one here. So this is the stylized character, stylized model. So let's add this this green light right here. So selecting the in front view, let's add a plane again, rotate X by 90 degrees, scale, bring it up here. All right, go to object mode. Let's extrude it just a bit, not too much. All right, so the first one is a bit wider, so you duplicate, move it along the x-axis. When you press shift D, press X almost immediately to move it along that axis, because if you do not, it will just go haywire. All right, so let's duplicate this one and bring it down along the Z axis and scale it along the X axis. All right, let's duplicate this one, Z, X. Let's scale this in a bit, duplicate this one again. So alright, so having done that, you notice all of them have the same material, so we want to join them all together. So you hold down shift and select every other thing, then hold Control and press J to join it together, and tada, we now have our screen. Great. So the next one we want to do, this is pretty simple, right? You can do this, okay, but let's do it together. So this time, instead of using a torus, let's use a circle this time. So let's select where we want our object to be, press shift, hold down shift and press A, add circle. All right, so you notice it's facing up, so we want to rotate it along the x-axis. But before we do that, let's reduce the vertex. This is too dense, so let's make it 16. Make it 16. All right, and that's it. So let's rotate it along x-axis 90 degrees. Boom. So we'll scale it, switch to edit mode, make sure it's in vertex. So let's extrude it now. So extrude by pressing E. You see, if you extrude and move your mouse, it's moving at any direction, but you want to snap it to a particular axis, so we press Y to snap it to that axis. Right, remember when we were creating this board, so we pretty much will do the same thing here. So we'll extrude again, move it forward, scale. All right, so this one doesn't really have that bulge side, so we want to scale it back. Hold on. So let's move this in like this instead. Okay, so instead of merging a center, we'll just close and add faces. So we'll just do that by pressing F to close and add faces. You can actually do the same thing for the back. All right, you can also add faces. Let's move it back a bit. So you switch to your wireframe, you can actually see it. Then moving it back to the y-axis. So the next thing we'll do is bevel. You guessed right, bevel the edge, and boom, you see that beauty right there. So you see that beauty right there. So if you now press your shade W and shade smooth, you see it's now sweet. So we can now use this. Let's move this here. So I'll show you next. I'll show you how to mirror this object to the other side. So right now you can see I still having that rough edges. So what do? You guessed right, would add a subdivision modifier. Boom, tada, we now have our button. So how do you mirror this object to the other side? All right, so we add a mirror modifier. So you come to add modifier and you look for mirror. So this is mirror right here. So right now you're not seeing anything, so you leave it as active. So mirrored on the x-axis means it's going to mirror on the x-axis. So if it was on the other side, you just switch it to the y and x and z, just the same way. So we want to mirror object. So what object do we want to mirror this object to, this volume button to? So we want to mirror it to this particular object. So what do? We'll find our eyedropper tool, click it and select this one. So you see that it mirrors according to this axis, x-axis, it mirrors according to this object. So now whatever I do to this one, watch this, it happens to the other one, right? So if I choose to be creative, right, so instead of me, you know, doing one and want to do the other person, I'll just edit it here, and we have a sweet volume button. So we can add an edge loop to crease it up here a bit. All right, so another thing now you need to learn when it comes to modeling. So you see this part that looks like a star. Why is that happening? Is because we didn't merge the edges to the center, right? That's why you're having this this jagged, you know, face, right? Because right now you can't even add an edge loop in front of it to crease it. All right, so what do? You can actually choose to switch to face mode and delete that face, right? Switch to edge mode, hold down Alt or Option on your keyboard, select all of that, extrude, scale, so you can see now you're scaling, you understand? Then you can actually press M to merge at the center. So now you can see it now that that crease is gone pretty much. It's still showing though, so that crease is actually gone. I wonder why it's still showing that anyways. So I think it's best we scale this to the center, or let's try merging at the center and see it still has the same thing. So the best is to just scale it to have that smooth effect. All right, so we have two, you know, volume buttons stylized. So you can see we ended up not using this type, so let's still crease down here. Let's crease here too. Ta-da, we have it. So whatever we did here happened here also. Okay, so I think we see the mistake we did there. We should have, let's see if we can we, yeah, let's duplicate one to the middle, delete the mirror modifier, so we can have this middle button right here. Okay, so you can leave yours as the bulgy part, you can re-edit it. Okay, so there's one thing left right here, so let's click edit mode. What I would like to do for that is to select this particular edge, and let's click bevel to bevel it, that particular edge, then reduce the segment, then extrude it. You see that? See what I did there? So you now use edge loops to crease it. Exactly. So you now have this design all done. All right, so in the next lesson we are going to go ahead and, you know, add these different, you can go ahead and add them. It's very simple. So in the next lesson we are going to texture the scene. Then the last lesson we are going to go into rendering, how you can render this amazing shot to have this feel with lighting. I'll show you where you can get perfect colors, where you can get textures and have, you know, a very nice scene. So your assignment is to create everything else. It's very simple. Just add, I'm giving you expo, I'll give you a tip, just add, you know, a cube, reduce it, add bevel. So everything is just bevel. So this is a circle, right? This city is a circle, so you just added this wall stuff. I mean, the wall prop here is the circle. So we'll just recreate this scene in our next lesson and add materials, add textures, and we'll know how to and we must have known how to model and render at the end of this course or end of this module. So we'll see you in the next class where we'd have to add textures to it. I believe you're having fun. I believe you've learned a lot. I believe you took notes. All right, so recap. So you can add Control B to bevel your edges. These are very important principles you need to use. E to extrude in edit mode. You know, R, S, G to grab, rotate, and scale. All right, so I think that's pretty much the tools we used. Shift C to snap your 3D cursor to in the middle of the 3D viewport. So I'll see you in the next lesson, and in the meantime, do your assignments, recreate this, because I'm not going to be doing that in the next lesson. I need to create this prop here, all these props, just create them, and we'll recap in the next lesson. See you then. Bye.